Good morning, everybody. How are you? I do hope you're very well. My name is Ali Board. This is Technique Tuesday, and I am broadcasting to you live from my studio down here on the south coast of England in Dorset. No matter how you are watching, you are very welcome. Now, that's a longer introduction than I normally do because this morning we are coming to you over several different platforms. So I feel like I've got I could bring aircraft in front of me this morning because I've got variations of lights and cameras and technology and all sorts of stuff going on. So if I don't see your comments or I miss a question that you're asking, I do apologise because we've got several audiences with us this morning and I'm trying to navigate my way through and do a demonstration at the same time. Now, just in case you've not taken part in Technique Tuesday before, this is something that goes out live on Facebook. It's going out over several pages on Facebook this morning, which is not what I normally do, but it's a very special one this morning. I'm sure you all know why, but I will fill you in just a second. But you might also be watching on catch up. You might be watching via my blog or on YouTube. No matter how you are watching, you're all really, really welcome. I'm so happy that you're all here. There's an awful lot of you in the room this morning. Now, I will try very hard to give you a shout out if I see your comment coming in. But like I said, because we are over several platforms, I might just miss your comment. I promise it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's simply because there's too many bits of tech to navigate my way around on my own this morning. Now let's have a look. Let's give some shout outs to those people who I can actually see their comments. So Pen, Martina, Linda P, Kathy, Rabina, Julie, Jane. Jane is on the Isle of Man. Yes, I am feeling well rested. Thank you very much. Took a little bit of time out yesterday after a very frenetic week last week. If you follow me on Instagram, then you will know exactly why. Lynn over in the US. Good morning. Lovely Rachel. Good morning, Rachel S. Joe, Maureen, lots of you saying that it's really damp and cold. It's not brilliant here in Dorset either. Hopefully I will fill your morning with sunshine to make up for it. Joe, Heather, Barbara. Barbara is saying, looking forward to seeing how the new paints I have where can be developed and can be used. Hold that thought. Win, good morning. Mr. Templeman, what's up, my lovely? Lovely to have you here. Ali D, Anne, Teresa, Janice, Christine. Oh, Christine saying exciting TT this morning. Yes, I'm quite nervous actually. I don't get nervous when I do these very often, but I am quite nervous this morning. You're all friends. It'll all be fine. Val, Jackie. Now, Jackie is saying morning from Stourpane Village in Dorset, just down the road from Ali. If I shouted loud enough, Jackie could probably hear me. Sandy, Jeanette, Trudy, Hilary P, Rosemary, Denise. Oh, Denise Allen is in the room. Morning, lovely. Urs. Oh, good morning, Urs. Anne H. Anne H is saying hello one time for once. Anne B, Lynn, Thea, Jean, Pippa. Oh gosh, everyone's coming in thick and fast. Ruth, Tracy, Denise, who else we got? Anita is in the room too. Lots of you. Now, thank you so much for taking the time to come in. Like I said, I do massively apologise if I miss your name coming up. It's probably because it's just on a platform that I can't quite see at the moment. There are not enough desktops or bits of technology in the world for me to keep track of everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on with this demonstration this morning, and then what I will try to do at some point today, I will go back through your messages and your questions, but do feel free to chat to each other as well. If you have not too much on this morning and you fancy making a cup of tea, maybe I'm on a phone or a tablet, take me over to the kettle, switch the kettle on, because I reckon we'll be here for around about an hour, something like that. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depends on how much I chatter. Now, Janice is saying just that morning, might have to duck out as having new blinds installed, but lovely to be here with you all. Janice, it's a long time since I've seen you, but lovely to have you here. Now, there are an awful lot of you in the room this morning, so I hope you enjoy what I have to share with you. And I'm taking this opportunity this morning. Technique Tuesday comes to you most Tuesdays. I had a week off last week, but I had other things on. Because what I like to do is share some news, share some things that I'm experimenting with, or like today, share with you a brand spanking new product. Now, I know some of you are going to know about this already, but there might be some of you that I've missed out there who are thinking to themselves, well, what is it that she's talking about? And here we go. The thing that I kept quiet for a good 5-6 months. Who knew that I could keep something quiet? And here they are, my new watercolor collection. I am so chuffed. I don't even know what the word is. Chuffed, honoured, pleased, proud, all of those things to be able to share these with you. This has been a long time coming. They have been in development for a good 6 months. These are being produced in conjunction with the SAA. Now, I know most of you will know the SAA, but just in case you don't, that is the company that supports all artists. And it is a company that I'm very proud to demonstrate for on a regular basis. I am one of their professional partners, and they have put an awful lot of trust and faith in me in developing these new colours. And here they are. Let me tell you a little bit about them. We have Black Iron Oxide, we have Cobalt Blue, and we have Ultramarine Violet. And here they are here for you. Now, why are these so special? They are special because they have been developed directly with me. The company that produced them came to me, and the SAA approached me as well to ask me what I would like to happen in a watercolor paint. And these are incredibly special. So these are what we would call small batch. So they're not made in vast quantities. Think of it like a good gin, if you will. A small batch gin. These are the watercolor equivalent of them. And they are made in the UK. They are vegan, which is a huge thing in terms of watercolor. So there are no products in there that are either animal based, and obviously they're not tested on animals either. In actual fact, everything I use in my demonstration today is vegan. So if you have that, that is obviously, you know me, you know I'm an animal lover. So if that is something that you concern yourself with your art materials, and with a bit of sustainability in mind too, these are products that you can safely use to not have to worry about things like that. Now, I know a lot of you already have the paints, but just in case you don't, I've provided you with some really easy links for where to go to find them. So let us go over just very briefly. I promise I'll get to the demonstration in just a second, but I want to show you where you can find all the information for what I am doing today. So if you go over to the website, let's show you this one first actually. So www.learningtopaint.co.uk. That is the website that's the home of everything to do with my tuition, with the classes that I hold. My new in-person workshops down here in Dorset got released over the weekend. I've got some coming up in the autumn that are already half full. So if you'd like to join me in person down here in Dorset, you want to get booking on those. But Learning to Paint is where you'll find all of that information. Now let's take you over to the website live, shall we? Now over here in resources, yours might look a little bit different if you're looking at this on a phone or on a tablet. You might have a different menu layout, but it's essentially all the same. But look, if you go over to that little resources tab, you will see Technique Tuesday there. Let's click on that for you and allow it to load. Now I have already put a blog up for today, so that you can find everything nice and easily. Let's click on read more. And there's a little bit of background about why I'm doing what I'm doing today. You can't see a video yet because we're in the process of recording it. How bizarre is that? But look at this. This is the important bit of information. So you can download the photograph. You can download the photograph here. If you click on that link, you will find my hellebore photograph. I took it. I have the copyright of it. So all all I ask is if you do use it, that you say from a demonstration by Alison C board, because that helps me spread the word about what I do. And then here you've got all of the information regarding all of the bits and pieces of materials that I'm going to be used today. And there you see it says new Alison C board watercolor collection. So if you click on that link will take you straight over to the SAA's website, and you will be able to see lots of bits of video on demand. You'll be able to see the colors in action, and you will be able to learn more about it. So just to remind you, that is www.learningtopaint.co.uk, and go over to the Technique Tuesday part of the blog, and you'll be able to access all of those resources there. So let's get down to it, shall we? Let's get to that demonstration, because I know you're itching to see it. So like I said, we've got the 3 paints here. I'm going to be using all 3 of them today. I'll be introducing some bits and pieces of the other materials as I go along, but I thought you'd like to have a look at these first, just in case you're wondering, well, what makes these so special? So we've got the Black Iron Oxide, Cobalt Blue and Ultramarine Violet. For those watercolor nerds out there like myself, you might want to know what pigments are involved in these 3 colours. Now, when we were talking about launching this range of colours, there were certain things that I wanted to introduce. Now, I can see that a couple of you are saying, will you be introducing more colours, Ali? And Ruth, I have to say that in answer to that, it's kind of down to people like your lovely selves purchasing them, because the more people who invest in these colours, the more we will be able to produce a greater range. It literally just comes down to that. So anybody that has already bought the paints or is thinking of buying them, thank you ever so much for your support, because it does mean that hopefully we can expand this range a little bit further. So to get back to the colours, Black Iron Oxide, it's an unusual name, but here we go. What I'm going to do as well, I'm going to swing another camera into shot, because I want you to see these colours really up close and personal. Let's clear the decks a little bit so that you can see what it is that I'm talking about. So here is that Black Iron Oxide, a very beautiful pigment. This is PBK 11. And one of the differences between these paints and some other brands of paints that you might have already invested in is that they have a very, very high pigment to binder ratio. What does that mean? That means that this tube is packed with pigment. So a tiny little bit goes an awful long way. And one of the other things that I wanted to happen with these paints was I wanted these to have some interesting properties. Now, this is probably the most unusual. So yes, Lynn is saying yummy granulation. This is the pigment reacting all on its own. You don't have to do anything to it. So if you want textural elements in your paintings, then this is absolutely a colour to consider. So that's the Black Iron Oxide. I've also done you a little chart here of how you can let it out. So let it out means this is it in its kind of mass tone. This is it as it comes out of the tube, really kind of thick. So you can get a really decent deep black out of it anyway. And then look how thin and how grey you can get it as well, with a tiny amount of colour. So these 14 milliliter tubes are going to go an awful long way in your painting. They also have these amazing flip lids on them. I'm going to get into shot so that you can see this. I don't know about the rest of you. I struggle to undo lids and redo them again. But these paints have a little flip cap on them so that you don't have to struggle with taking the lid on and off again. Isn't that fabulous? It's really cool, isn't it? Something so simple can really help those people that struggle to grip the lids, or when they get kind of covered in paint, you've got that little flip up cap and it's all there, good to go. What could be better, really? So there's your Black Iron Oxide. Let's move that to one side. And let's have a look at the Cobalt Blue. Now, Cobalt Blue is a kind of standard colour, but not all Cobalt Blues are the same, okay? Cobalt Blue, just because it is the name of something, doesn't mean that all the ingredients of it are always identical. Now, Cobalt Blue comes in various guises as a pigment number. This is an unusual one, see I've written it down here, PB72, which makes it a very rich version of Cobalt Blue. So again, let's have a look at it. There's that mass tone. So useful because it's not biased one way or the other. You could make lovely greens out of this. You could also make lovely violets out of it too. And there you go, all the way down where it's been let out to very little pigment and an awful lot of water. So it has some tonal scope as well. And that's why I liked it. And look at that granulation. Look at it. Isn't it just delicious? If you wanted to show ripples on water or to have an interesting background to your paintings, then maybe consider the Cobalt Blue. Now, I've left this one till last because it wouldn't be me, would it, if I didn't have a violet in the range. And when we were discussing about 3 colours, I mean, basically the SAA came to me and they said, what 3 colours would you like in an introductory range for your watercolour collection? And I really struggled. How are you supposed to choose only 3 colours? So I tried to balance out between colours that were going to be useful in terms of the Black Iron Oxide, something that is really going to kind of benefit being added to your palette. Cobalt Blue the same. Cobalt Blue is a colour that everybody is going to use, all right? But it wouldn't be me, would it, if I didn't put a violet in somewhere. And I wanted an unusual violet. That's what I wanted. And we worked long and hard with the company that have produced these for me. And we came up with Ultramarine Violet, which is PV15, okay? So these are single pigment colours as well. You're not kind of muddying the waters with lots and lots of pigments in there. And same as all the others, got that lovely kind of little flip lid on there. We'll talk about the consistency of them in just a second because the consistency of them is unusual as well. And you've got that lovely, here we go, look, that lovely mass tone. Those of you that like doing flower painting, bluebell woods in particular, perfect bluebell colour, straight out the tube. You haven't got to mix it. And then let out that lovely kind of cool violet. So if you like to work on the kind of colder shades in your palette, or you like working on, quite good for portraiture, good for things like shadows in woodland scenes, all of that kind of stuff. And there you've got that amazing granulation coming all the way down to a really deep mass tone. So yes, D has put the perfect emoji on Facebook, 3 coloured hearts, a blue, a black and a violet. So that is the reason behind those colours. Now let's swing that camera out of the way and let's get ready for our demonstration. What I've tried to do with this is I'm going to kind of give you a blow-by-blow account of this hellebore. I'm going to describe the materials that I'm using as I go along, and then absolutely go over to the website and choose the Technique Tuesday blog. You'll find all of the equipment there and nice easy links, including this photograph. Now, any of you who follow me as an artist as opposed to a tutor, so you might follow my Instagram, Alibord Artist, or you might follow my other blog that I write on my Alison C board website, you will know that I am currently spending an awful lot of my time working on something called Plan B, as in one of these buzzy little numbers. And I am revamping my garden to make it more wildlife friendly, to learn more about gardening, all of those sorts of things. And this week, not only did my husband and I build a polytunnel, I'm a little bit tired now, so is he, we unearthed all sorts of plants that had got covered over where we had neglected our garden over the years, and hellebores were part of them. In fact, now that I've uncovered them, they are absolutely thriving, and I've got hellebores a go-go. Now, this is a photograph that I took. You can see my little fist in it as well. And I thought we'd kind of keep it simple today, but I'm going to leave this up in the shot as well so that you can see what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about it. So let's get cracking, shall we? The paper that I'm using today is the Hahnemühle Agave watercolour paper. Now, why am I using this today? I'm using this today because I want all of the equipment to be as sustainable as it can be. I want all of my equipment to be vegan. So this paper has no gelatin sizing in it. This uses a synthetic sizing. And the agave, so this is, let me just remind myself, 70% agave fibre, 30% cotton. And the agave is a very fast growing plant, so it makes it really, really sustainable too. So if this is something that concerns you in your impact, I know that it's something that concerns me greatly, the impact that my job has on the environment and the materials that I use. This is a really interesting paper to go for. Now this is A4. I've kept it small today because I didn't want to frighten any of you. And this is what's known as a block. So let's just flip that over. And why is it called a block? It's called a block because it's glued almost all the way around the edge. There's a little gap. Where's the little gap? There's the little gap up there. So you can see if I run my finger through it, I'll be able to get a knife or a palette knife or something like that in there afterwards to take that top sheet off. But for the time being, I don't need to worry about stretching it or it buckling or cockling or any of those kind of things. I can paint straight on it and it will be fine and dandy. Now, what else have I got as I make my way through this project? I printed my photograph out. I printed it sort of standard size to start with. And then I thought, oh, blimey, that's a bit big, Ali. And it might swamp the piece of watercolour paper. So I actually reduced it in size. And that is the one that I'm going to use today. So it's in black and white so that I can do a transfer. Now, I know an awful lot of you know about transfer techniques, but today let's pretend that we don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this black and white copy and I'm going to use a little bit of framer's tape just to hinge it down to my pad so that it doesn't shift. You won't get away with one piece of masking tape. You do need two pieces so that it doesn't shift when you do the transfer. And underneath that, I've got a piece of trace down. This is like old-fashioned carbon paper, but it's graphite based instead of being wax based. That's really important because you don't want it to repel any of the watercolour that goes down. There is a link to this on that blog post that I mentioned right at the start of my broadcast. So let's slide that underneath. Don't forget, dark side down. I have to double check every single time, because there will be a day where I forget and I end up doing it twice. And then I've got a coloured biro. I have a coloured biro for lots of reasons. The main reason being that I think that it pushes through my paper so that I get it a nice transfer, but I use a colour so that I can see where I've been as well. And let's just zoom in a little bit closer so that you can see what I'm doing. Now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for some petal shapes, but I want to make sure that I draw them in with a broken line. Why do I want to draw them in with a broken line? I want to draw them in with a broken line because I don't want to have to necessarily stick to the parameters that those lines make. And by that I mean, if my brush goes beyond this border, it will look like it's an impressionistic style of painting. If I joined the line up so that it was very solid and my brush went over the line for whatever reason, then that might look like a mistake and I really don't want that to happen. As you can see, I'm obviously pushing hard enough through, so it's always worth just a quick double check. Let's go back into, I'm trying to find my version of it. There we go. Looking at these petal shapes. Very distinctive petal shapes on a hellebore, and really hard. We were chatting via social media this week about how tricky hellebores can be to photograph because obviously their heads hang down an awful lot. So you can see I had to just coax it upright a little bit. But that lovely kind of 5-petal look is what you're after with a hellebore. So let's get that in. Now you've got, I'm going to do a very bad job of describing bits of this flower, so I do apologise in advance. You've got these little kind of cup sections. I'm sure that's not what they're called, but never mind. Before we've got the stamen. Now I know what a stamen is. I'm good with that. And these stamen are a pale colour. Now, while I'm finishing drawing this out, let's just talk a little bit about the several approaches that you might have to this project. Just because I'm doing it in the way that I'm doing it and using the products that I'm using does not make it the only way that it could be interpreted. What I would love to see, both on the Learning to Paint part of Facebook or in the comments, or all the ways that you have interpreted this photograph, I would love to see what you do with it. You might want to mask out these stamen. You might want to use a bit of acrylic or some ink or all sorts of things over the top. Do with it whatever you will. All I'm doing is showing you the way that I might interpret it. So let's have a quick look at that. See how that's going? Yeah, that's all right, isn't it? That works. That's okay. Now, there's a couple of leaves poking up here. I quite like this one that's coming down here. I'm not wild about that one because I think it looks a bit like an antenna, so we'll gloss over that. And I really don't want my stem coming out that way, so I'm actually going to leave those things. I'm happy enough with my transfer, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the black and white version and then work back in it with a little bit of pencil, and we'll make a few little pruning motions, shall we? Right, let's take that piece of trace down. Oh, I'm so running out of desk space here. Oh dear, it'll have to end up on the floor. And then we'll fold the tape over this so that it can be saved for another day. Now let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's zoom right in a little bit more so that you can see what it is that I'm working on. I have got a putty eraser here. Good morning, Tara. And I have a Faber-Castell 9000 pencil in 2B here. I like these putty erasers because they come in a box, but they can be a bit stroppy. Trying to pull it out. Now the putty eraser is going to lighten the pencil marks I make. The disadvantage of using trace down is that you get a few scuff marks here and there, particularly if it's a new piece of trace down. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my putty eraser and dust my way back over it. I think that's how you would describe it. A bit of dusting, and then I can go back in with my pencil and I can add anything that I particularly like the look of. So we might go back over some lines. This is, I call this part of the process orientation. And I call it that because the more times you draw something or you get used to where petals have got to lie or the shape of them, all of that kind of stuff, the more confident you're going to be when you come to paint it in. Now, I'm no great drawer. I'm not wild about drawing. It's not something that I particularly enjoy doing. It's a bit of a means to an end to me. I much prefer throwing paint around than I do drawing. But I have to say, if I create this kind of nice map of where the petals lie, you know, where things are going to occur, adding bits and pieces here and there, then I'm going to worry a little bit less about where my paint has got to go when it goes down. Now, if you've got a line in the right place, but it's a bit too solid, that's what your putty eraser is for. You can go back and lighten it. I've added a little bit more detail into mine, but it's a little bit on the heavy side. Now, sometimes that's a good thing because if you are a bit heavy-handed with colour, then you can very clearly see your pencil drawing underneath. I sometimes get into a bit of a habit of drawing slightly darker than I might want it to be anyway, so that when I'm demonstrating, people can very easily see what I'm drawing and how I'm drawing it. Because if I did it too pale, you'd all be wondering what it is that I'm doing, wouldn't you? So let's get some of those stamen in. I'm trying very hard not to over describe them. I don't want to overdo it because I want this to be relatively impressionistic. I don't want to fuss about it too much. Trisha's just joined us and is saying, good morning, sorry about being late. Please don't apologise. There'll be people watching this on catch up as well. So you're very welcome, no matter how you are viewing this demonstration this morning. Right, I'm zooming out a little bit, because I need to think about other things that are going on. Now I'm going to start the stem of my hellebore kind of coming out the back of it. And that way I can have it coming down. I don't want it too thick, but then I'm hoping that we'll get that kind of bell look to it, that very heavy head to it. I'm going to make that stem kind of disappear off the page. I don't want to over describe that too much. Managed to create a right old mess going on here. And then in the background, I'm going to do random leaves. Now, I know that's easier said than done, right? But in the photograph, you can see that there is lots of greenery in the background, but you don't need to over-describe it necessarily. You can decide whether it's attached to the hellebore, or you can decide whether it's in the background. All I'm going to do is make a few marks. There's that leaf that I wanted to put in, so that it balances up the composition a little bit more, and it gives it interest. My fear always when I'm doing a painting like this is that my flower head is going to look a bit too much like a cardboard cutout, which I really don't want. Okay, I want it to be part and parcel of that background. So we'll stop faffing about with it, shall we, Ali? And we'll get on to the painting. Now, here are those three colours that I talked about from my watercolour collection. You've got the Black Iron Oxide, you've got the Cobalt Blue, and you've got the Ultramarine Violet. I like to squeeze them out into pans and let them dry, because that is a consistency of paint that I particularly like. Now, this might not suit you, but there is something to be said about my new range of watercolours. They have a very different consistency than what you might be used to, because they are small batch colours. These are not made by the thousand tubes. These are made by one individual who has quality control over how they come out. And I like my paints to be a little bit thicker than ordinary, particularly because I like to squeeze them out into pans. And also because of the nature of pigments, they're going to vary from tube to tube. So you might find that the black is a little bit thinner than the blue. You might find that the violet is a little bit thicker than the others. These are made with such care and attention to getting the best out of the pigment. They're not trying to be made so that they're all identical in consistency. They are trying to show off the pigment to its best. So if you squeeze them out of the tube, you might notice that they vary. But if you use this system of squeezing them out into pans and allowing them to dry, these have the very best quality gum arabic in them. So they might take a little bit longer to dry in the pan than some of your other paints. So that's not a problem with them. That's just the nature of them being so carefully made. So I've got my black, my blue, my violet. I've spritzed those with the water spray to get them working. I'm also going to introduce two other colours as well. These are Daniel Smith colours, but again, don't have to replicate these. I wanted to kind of throw them into the mix just to create, to kind of expand on the palette that we're using. I've got Rich Green Gold, which is a favourite of mine, and I've got an Opera Pink as well, just for a little bit of pizzazz. And I'm hoping that those colours will complement the others. And what I do know is that you can integrate my three colours with any other brand of watercolour paints. You don't need to use them just on their own. They will mix in with your Winsor & Newton, your Daler Rowney, whoever it is that you've got. And I'm going to be using them with my Daniel Smith today. I'm also going to use the SAA Imitation Sable brushes. Most of you will know that I have used these for a good 4 or 5 years now. And of course, these are also vegan, because they are a nylon filament, not a hair filament. So let's get a bit of kitchen roll into the mix as well. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wallop, and that is the official term for it, wallop a background in. Good morning to those of you who have just joined us. Lizzie has, thank goodness for catch-up. What's she saying? Thank goodness for catch-up. Mr. Bitter's husband decided to blow the electrics by sticking a knife in the toaster to remove burnt toast. Well, Lizzie, apart from your internet going haywire, I'm very glad that your husband hasn't gone haywire as well. And lovely Claire is in the room as well. Good morning. So I've got a size 10 in my brush, and let's give these, what am I going to be using in the background? I'm going to be using a little bit of black, a little bit of cobalt blue, and some of this green gold. Those are the three I'm going to be using in the background. So let's give those a bit of a spritz, and we'll give our Hahnemühle agave paper a little bit of a spritz too. We're putting some water down so that I get a nice diffused finish to it. Popping my brush into the water. Let's start with a little bit of that cobalt blue. Now, if you have invested in my paints, you will notice you don't need an awful lot of it. Normally, you will see me chuck my brush into the pan of colour and roll it around several times to be able to get enough colour on. But I've literally just touched it at the surface and there's lots of it there. So a little bit of these colours does go an awful long way. And what we're going to do first is we're going to create a kind of textural, ethereal, deep, interesting background for our hellebore. I'm not going to worry too much about my colour going into my flower head. In fact, I'm going to actively encourage it so that I get a nice association between what's going on in the background and what's going on in the foreground. So look at that cobalt blue. Isn't that lovely? Now, I'm going to use a little bit of black as well, because here and there I want to create some really nice found edges on my hellebore. And to do that with a nice soft colour, I'm going to need to have something much deeper next to it. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Black Iron Oxide. Actually, in the photograph, you will see I took it kind of against the backdrop of the compost, of the earth. And I was thinking how interesting a colour that is to have as a backdrop for a flower. Not necessarily something that you would consider, but I thought this was the perfect excuse really for getting that Black Iron Oxide on. And look, got delicious granulation. What's not to like about that? Right, where else do I want there to be a deep colour? I think somewhere over here. Let's introduce a little bit of that. Don't be scared of these colours. Just because they are very strong, and I'm saying a little goes a long way. Yes, a little does go a long way. But what that means is that there's plenty of room for experimenting. So let's get it running down the page. Just in case you're wondering what this is all about, is because I like to encourage my paints to run. Gives them a little bit of movement, I feel. And then we're over to the Daniel Smith Rich Green Gold, which in with the black is going to create some rather nice colours, and the blue too. Let's just control a bit of that colour, spread it into the others so that we can see what we've got. Look at it in with the black. Isn't that lovely? What else have we got? Let's do a little bit of that green. Oh, do you know what? Let's pick up two at the same time. So we'll pick up some of that green, and we'll pick up a little bit of the black so that they blend together on the page rather than mixing them in the palette. And then I think the other thing that we will do is we will do some tapping. What shall we use for that? I'm quite tempted to use the blue actually for that. A little bit of spatter into that green gold I don't think is going to be a bad thing. Let's get some of that going in and into the wet as well, so we get a little bit of diffusion and that nice kind of sense of movement. Now, whilst that's still wet, I can blend any areas of it out that I'm not wild about or that I think need softening a little bit. I can put my brush into some of those dots to get them to move. And then when I'm happy with it, I can take my scrunched up bit of kitchen roll and let's create some further patterns and control some of that water that's on the surface. Fans of rag rolling are going to love my colours because they pick up and move really easily. And ordinarily, I'd probably leave this to dry naturally, or I wouldn't put my kitchen roll back into it quite so much. But we are on the clock this morning, aren't we? As we are broadcasting live. So I'm going to take control of some of the edges. And then I'm going to give it a really, really good dry with my heat gun. Now, there's been quite a bit of discussion over on my Learning to Paint with Alison C board Facebook group, of which you are all very welcome to become a member of if you're not already. There's been discussion about using heat and whether it disturbs the pigment. And yes, absolutely, if you concentrate a heat source on this, it is going to dull the pigment. So it's very important, particularly if you're using a heat gun, to keep that heat source moving. It's actually quite cold in my studio today, so I'm not going to be able to rely on these just drying naturally quickly. So I'm going to keep this heat source moving around. Now I can't dry it from the back today because this paper is already fixed down in a block form. So I'm going to have to be a little bit patient with it, but that's all right. We can do patient, can't we? It gives me the opportunity to answer some of your questions. And I can see one has already come in from Ruth, who is saying, would green apatite genuine work? Yes, absolutely, Ruth. Experiment with the combinations of colours that you find pleasing, because that's what it's all about. It's about taking a project and absolutely making it your own. So let's keep this heat source moving, and let's actually ramp it up a little bit. So I'm keeping that heat swirling around the surface. You can see it's starting to dry already. But what I've got is a lovely soft background. And it is getting there. Now, if I was working just in my own time and I wasn't acutely aware that there are lots of you out there watching this, then I would probably spend a lot more time drying it. But I am aware that we're probably going to overrun the hour today, so do go and pop the kettle on. But I'm going to get cracking with this. Just be mindful of the fact that if you're working this on your own, you want it to be super, super dry, okay? Now let's get to the painting of the flower. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a little bit of this green gold into the centre of my flower, because you can probably see... Ruth has just, Mick has just asked a brilliant question. If you haven't got a hot air dryer, can you suck an extra strong mint and blow on it? Mick, you try it. Let me know how it goes, all right? Love it. Good old Mick. Right, I'm still using my number 10 brush and I'm still using the green gold. It's not quite the right green in comparison to the photograph. Do I care? No, really not. This is my hellebore. I get to do whatever I want with it. So, no. And what I'm going to do is just fuzz the edges of that green a little bit so that I get that kind of nice yellowy bloom in the centre of it. Let's give that a quick heat dry as well. There we go, just taking the edge off it. Again, let yours dry a little bit more. And then I've got my Ultramarine Violet in here. It looks a bit dark in the pan. That might be actually to do with the lighting in here. I haven't got the lights turned on too bright today because I've got 3 of them pointing at me and I didn't want to be blinded. So it looks a bit dull, but I can promise you it is a rather beautiful colour. And I think I'm going to switch to my number 8 brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tiny bit of the Opera Pink, and I'm going to lay that down here and there, just in a few places first. Oh, that's picking up a little bit of that Cobalt Blue. Isn't that rather lovely? So we're going to add some very kind of pale, smudgy washes to this. I've lost a bit of my edge over there, but that's all right. That's not the end of the world. Oh, that's stem, isn't it? I couldn't work out what that was. I was thinking, what's that? That's not petal. So putting a little bit of that pink down. Let's put some extra of that. Ooh, that's a bit bright, Ali. There we go, fuzz that out a little bit better. That's more like it. And then let's get on to the Ultramarine Violet. And let's get that colour in. Look at that. What's not to like about that? Too beautiful for words. So all I'm doing at the moment is blocking this in. I just want essence of hellebore. I'm not counting the veins on it. I'm not overdoing it. I want it to be kind of soft and ethereal. I want it to definitely look like a flower. All of those kind of things. Where else do we want some of this? We want some of this in here. Now, there's lots of ways that you can approach flower painting. You can do it as a glazed version, which is sort of what I'm aiming for at the moment. So glazing is where you build up layers incrementally. Or you could do it as what I would call a one-hit wonder, where you chuck colour at it all in one go. Each way of doing it is entirely legitimate. You call it as you see it. I'm kind of going back in wet into it. I sort of tend to between the two, really. I like a little bit of glazing and I like a little bit of walloping it on as well. Now, in the camera, this ultramarine violet is looking a bit blue. It isn't like that at all. In fact, what I'm going to do is on the fly, I'm just going to make a couple of corrections to the camera so that it doesn't look, there we go, that's better. There we go, looks much more violet now. And proving to myself that I can alter the technology as we go along. Let's deepen that violet over on that edge. Again, not worrying too much about the veins or the stamen. What I do need to do is to get some of this colour in there, in behind, over the top of that green gold, so that when I do paint my stamen in, they're going to show up. And what else? Let's deepen this colour. No, actually, I'm absolutely tell a lie. Let's take a little bit of that green and a little bit of the black, so that in, a bit more of the black, Ali, so that in here we can deepen some of these elements, so that when we paint our stamen in a second, they're going to show up. Now, you might notice how my brush is kind of skipping and dancing across the surface. That is absolutely deliberate. I don't want to be stroking it on kind of deluxe fashion, yeah? Because I don't want to have very definite brush marks. This is a natural form. I want it to look like that. Whilst we're there, and before I do my next little round of drying, let's get that stem in. And oh, I think that's way too big a brush. Let's go for good old trusty number 6, because number 6 is going to give me a bit of accuracy, I think, in there. Yes, much better. And we'll get that stem in. Now I'm being a little bit more careful with this stem, because stem requires a little bit of accuracy. And let's continue that colour coming down. Can't do accurate and talk at the same time, as per usual. Using a bit of water to blend that out. Let's deepen some of that colour. These are impressionistic marks that I am making. If you have more time, you can take much more care than I am doing. Today is just about showing off these colours and helping you out if you fancy doing a similar hellebore painting. Now, let's go a little bit off-piste and let's combine the green gold and the cobalt blue to create some of these leaf shapes in the background. Now, I like my paints to mix on the paper. That is just something that I like to do. I find that if I mix them on a palette, I procrastinate way too much, and my what happens is that the paints stay on the palette and they don't actually ever particularly end up on the painting itself. So you're probably noticing that I'm picking up a little bit of colour from one pan and then another pan and allowing them to mix in that way. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, that's not the easiest technique to use, but it is certainly an immediate one. So if you fancy having a go at that, then that's another thing that you can experiment with. Quite liking that. Definitely need there, because at the moment that looks a little bit like it's exploding out the back of it. Let's soften that, that's better. And then let's do the same down here with this leaf shape. Bit too much blue. Let's add a little bit more of the green gold back in there. So you can see my paints mixing with the Daniel Smith. You don't have to use them on their own. You can easily integrate them into your colour collection and they will work very well together. Let's bring that around. Let's describe the front edge of that shape. And then possibly one, oh, that's a bit blue. Ah, never mind. That'll work, won't it? That'll be all right. Should be right. And let's get a little bit of that. Maybe cross this over the stem a bit more as well. But very loose and impressionistic. What should I do now? Let's lift a little bit of that colour with a bit of kitchen roll so that we get some nice patterns in there too. Then it needs another dry. Let's give it a blast. Why can I never remember which is the high setting? It's because I'm going to show you this. So the low setting is number 2 and the high setting is number 1, and that's counterintuitive to me. I don't understand that. So let's get particularly the bit closest to the flower in and dry. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to pop some shadows in. And for that, what shall I use? I think I'm going to use the Black Iron Oxide. Let's have my trusty steed there. And a little bit of that green gold to deepen some of these colours. Now, I know that there are going to be some of you out there going, well, Ali, that's crackers. That's way too deep. But don't forget, a little bit goes a long way. I can take this deep colour and I can move it, particularly on this agave paper, which gives you this incredible soft finish. But I want to work on these flower petals so that they stand out. And sometimes you just got to be brave. You've just got to do it. It is, after all, only a piece of paper. I know it's really easy and very flippant of me to say, isn't it? I'm going to drop some green into there too. I'm also going to add, let's do a bit of a hard spatter into there to kind of elongate some of those shapes. We can use our kitchen oil. I got a bit of water that spattered back into there, but that's all right. I kind of like to use my brush more like a pencil or a pen than I do a brush. That kind of dancing over the surface is, you know, a mark that I really like to make. And then let's do the same down here. So we've got a bit of that green gold, a bit of the Black Iron Oxide. Let's go into that leaf shape and let's show that petal up down here. Where do I want that to go? Do I want that to run up to the stem? Yeah, do you know what? I think I do. Let's get that in. We need to pop a bit of colour the other side of it, otherwise it will look weird. You know, it'll sort of stop. So we need to get some negative colour in that side too, just to kind of continue it. That's getting there. Heather is saying, had to miss a bit. Did you mask the stamen, Ali? No, I didn't. I'm going to attack those kind of last. That's the last thing on my list of things to do. We'll get that in. Maybe a bit more. One of that. Jeanette, that's a very kind comment. Thank you very much, lovely. I do, you know how much I love demonstrating for all of you. And I've been so proud to be working on this watercolour collection with the SAA. You have no idea. It's a really, really big deal for me. There are various things on one's career ladder that one hopes to achieve, and sometimes things come off and sometimes things don't, and you have to go with the flow a little bit. But the SAA were good enough to put all of their faith in me, in that they thought, yes, we will we'll start to produce this and we'll start to look to manufacture these. So it is a big, big thing for me. Trudy is saying, is there any advice on how to dance or skip the brush over the paper? That's a really good question, Trudy. I think it comes down to my personality. Maybe it's my dance background, I don't know. But I think a little bit of frenetic work. You'll see I use my little finger an awful lot to make it do that kind of dance over the surface. I try not to clamp my hand down and, because then you've got very limited range of movement. So you probably see I work my arm. So I'm working from my shoulder. I'm working from up here to move my arm. I'm not working from my elbow, not working from my wrist either. Let's get a little bit of that green back in. I sort of lost the plot a little bit. Lots of lovely comments coming in. Thank you very much. That's really very kind of you. Lots of people saying that they've got to disappear and they will watch later. Of course. Don't forget, it will be over on my blog on the Learning to Paint website. That's where you will find it. Let's do a tiny bit of shadow work in on these petals. Where do I want there to be a shadow? I want there to be one on there. So I'm using that Black Iron Oxide in just a very thin consistency. In fact, I've got it a bit clogged up with green. So let's just lift that out and get rid of that little bit of green that's in the corner. And then I've got some of that black. And, it's called black and it sounds very finite, doesn't it? But it's not. We saw, didn't we, on those swatches, how you could make it into quite a delicate grey if you wanted to. So let's get that bit in. And let's just finish off with a bit of the Ultramarine Violet. Let's grab back some of those petal edges. Now, the Ultramarine Violet is an unusual colour in that it dries very matte finish. So it's it's not, but it's almost got that look of kind of gouache, which makes it cover really well. So if you do like to do a bit of flower painting and you do like to kind of have a strength in your colour, then the Ultramarine Violet is definitely one to consider because it's got that slightly different consistency to it. Now, there's something weird going on over here. There's something weird going on because there's no violet on this. That's what's weird. So we'll get, there we go. That's better. That's better, isn't it? And there's a few things that are out of whack, but do you know what? Am I bothered? No, not in the slightest. So let's give it a blast and then we can do some finishing off. That'll do. Right, I've got 2 pens that I'm going to finish off with. Now, you wouldn't have thought, would you, that you need to, if you are interested in making sure that your products are don't have any animal ingredients, you still do have to consider pens. And I've got 2 of the best here. I've got the Sigma Micron pen. So this is a 0.5. This is quite unusual because this is a dark green. This is called Hunter Green. And any of you All Aboard Artists members out there are going to be using these in our workshop this month. So this gives you a double go at it. And I've got a Posca pen. So if you watch a lot of my demonstrations, you will know that I use these an awful lot. This is a paint marker similar to acrylic paint. This is in an ivory colour. I need to make sure that I can get this started. It is a pump action pen. I've got a horrible habit of, yes, look at that, scribbling beautifully. Didn't want it to be white because actually the stamen on this hellebore are a creamy colour. But like I said, you could mask them out if you wanted to. Now with the green pen, I'm going to add a little bit of detail. I think we need a bit of zooming in, don't we? Should we get close-up camera in on this? Let's just set it up. Then you can see exactly what I'm doing. There we go. I just need to, sorry folks, 2 seconds while I clear the decks. Let's get this in so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm making a few little dots and dashes to that center detailing. What I do need to do is find my photograph so that I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So coming around the middle of that hellebore, again, dancing pen, dots and dashes. Maybe I'll start some of the stamen off with this pen so that we get some nice structure going on. It will get a little bit of definition, I think, where maybe it's lacking. Now the colour does look very rich in this camera. I have got it set to absolute maximum to show off these pigments. So you're seeing it a little bit deeper than it would ordinarily look. Let's give that Posca pen a bit of a shake. And let's get some of these stamen and lines in. Oh, it's not as opaque as I would like it to be. So let's work on that a little bit. Maybe I need to, when all this is dry, maybe I need to go back in with a bit of gouache or something similar to make it stand out a little bit more. Maybe this pen isn't quite up to the job. In actual fact, actually it's doing some nice soft work. Maybe it's not dry enough, actually. Let's dry it off. Maybe it needs a combination of the two. It is showing up. Perhaps it's just because I'm under all these lights. Seems to be showing up better for you than it does for me. So we'll put a little bit of that in. We'll go back in with more of this Hunter Green pen, because I quite like that, has to be said. I've only just, I'm a bit slow. I'm always late to the party with various materials. I only realised recently that you can get these pens in a variety of colours, which is dippy on my part because I should read the SAA catalogue a little bit more. But I'm just loving the addition of these. And then if I reach over to one side, luckily I put my gouache in reach. And let's just do a little bit. So this is permanent white gouache. And what I'm going to do, this is my size 2 imitation sable brush. I would kind of like it to be a bit creamier than this, but it isn't. So we'll just live with it, shall we? And we'll add, that's better. It was the ends that weren't working. We'll add to some of these marks in the centre of the hellebore. In fact, we'll do a little inversion technique to finish with. Adding some of that detail. We'll put some little highlights in around here. Now, what do I mean by an inversion technique? An inversion technique is where you take one of the other colours that occurs elsewhere in the painting and you add it to a part that isn't that colour. And that was the worst description in the world, but this is what I mean. Now, the stamen in the photograph are cream against the purple, but that doesn't mean that you can't put some purple versions in there too. So I'm sort of not abstracting it, I am inverting it to kind of suggest that there are both colours going on. And actually I think it's working better having more than one colour rather than just one individual. Maybe that would have shown up better if I'd have masked it. Who knows? Who knows? And then just as a bit of finish, we'll put a tiny little line across the back of that stem, and we'll put one coming down the front as well. And then let's go back to the overhead camera just to see how that's coming together. Actually, do you know what? That's all right. And it does need a spatter. It does definitely need a spatter. And of course, it needs a spatter in violet because it's me. And why would you not want to spatter it in violet? It needs, because I haven't put the veins in on the hellebore, because I know me. If I start putting the veins in on the hellebore, I won't stop. And so I'm going to give my hellebore a little bit of a spatter. Let's sign it off, shall we? Let's put the good old signature in here so that this stops me from faffing about with it any more than I have done already. And there is my finished hellebore using a combination of my own watercolour collection in the Black Iron Oxide, the Cobalt Blue and the Ultramarine Violet. Oh, we got there. We got to the end and it's only 5 past. So don't disappear. I have some information to share with you. Just to remind you, in case you missed the start of today's demonstration, if you want to find the links to all of those materials, you need to go over to my website, www.learningtopaint.co.uk, find resources and click on the Technique Tuesday part of those resources. That will take you straight to the blog. All of the information is there. The photograph is there, a list of all the equipment that I used today, and some nice, easy, quick links to take you over to the SAA's website. Now, those are affiliate links, and what that means is that if you do purchase directly from those links, then I just get a few pennies back to say thank you for pushing people in the right direction. And that means it goes towards funding more Technique Tuesday broadcasts like this one. Now, like I said, my autumn workshops launched yesterday. They have gone live on the website. So if you fancy coming down to Dorset, we're doing 3 workshops in the autumn. We're doing a cobweb in the heather. We're doing a tabby cat and we're doing an allium as well. So I bet that my colours are going to crop up in those workshops too. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to send me an email, ali@learningtopaint.co.uk. I know that there are lots of you out there that have sent me emails over the past week, which I apologise that I haven't got to yet. Polytunnel took priority last week. We had to get that done before the rain set in. And it's been such a privilege and such a pleasure to share this demonstration with you today. Thank you ever so much for taking the time and the trouble to join in. If you want to help me out, then please just share this broadcast or share my website or let people know about what it is that I do, because all that will do is build our community so that we have a greater number of artists whose opinions and whose experience we can draw on. Now, I will be back next Tuesday with a brand spanking new Technique Tuesday, something I've never demonstrated before. It's donkey's years since I did it. It is a printmaking project. And it's going to use bits of equipment in the studio that I have absolutely no idea how I am going to broadcast using them. But you know what? We will worry about that as we go along. That will be back over on the Learning to Paint Facebook page, which you need to be a member of. Doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to sign your life away at all. It's just a closed group so that when you share your artwork on it, you're not bombarded with all sorts of spam and things, and we can share it with people who are like-minded, and that's the point, isn't it? So until I see you in person, online, on a broadcast, we've got workshops coming up, all of those kind of things. Please, please, please take lots and lots of care of yourselves. Give everybody who's close to you an extra hug this week. And I will see you very soon. All right, lovely people. Thank you. Bye.